Good evening, friends. I am Vasudevan. I welcome you all in this AICTE sponsored Pragna Kate scheme for SCSC student organized by 12th session on general aptitude. So, in this session, we'll be seeing the topic under active voice and passive voice. So, what is active voice and what is passive voice? Yes, guys, what is active voice and what is passive voice? So, before getting into active voice and passive voice, you need to know few more things. So, in traditional sentences, we'll be going for few more things when we before going for this active and passive voices. So, in that first one is like subject of the sentence. In traditional grammar, a sentence consists of two parts. One is like subject and other is like predicate. The subject is a grammatical term used to describe the noun, pronoun, and noun phrases that occur before the verb in a sentence. Predicate provides information about the subject, such as what the subject is doing or what the subject is like. Predicate must contain a verb but may also contain other sentence elements. For example, if I have to give you such sentences, so the dog was chasing the cat, and next we found an injured dog, and next one drinking alcohol causes liver problem. So in this, if we split this sentences in terms of subject and predicate, so the dog is the subject and was chasing the cat is called as predicate. And in similar term, B is subject and found an injured dog is predicate. And drinking alcohol is subject and causing liver problems is predicate. So, what is subject? The subject is a grammatical term used to predict pronouns, so nouns, pronouns, and noun phrases that occurs before the verb in a sentence. So, which is so here this is the verb. So, verb is like was chasing is called as the verb in the first sentence, and first one the dog. So that is called as the noun. And in the second sentence, found is called as the verb, and we is called as pronoun, and causes is to be as verb, and drinking alcohol is called as noun phrase. Yeah, predicates provides information about the subject. So if you see this predicates, predicate is always giving us information about the subject, such as what the subject is doing or what the subject is like, and the predicate must contain a verb, but may also contain other sentence elements. In English, all sentence must always have a subject, that is a noun, a pronoun, and noun phrase. In sentences which do not have natural subject, we use dummy subjects. So whenever a sentence is not having a natural subject, we'll be using dummy subjects. As we'll be seeing in the example. For example, if I have to give you a sentence with dummy subject, it is raining. So in this sentence, the verb raining carries a subject, it, even if nothing is actually doing the raining. So we can say this it as the dummy subject here. Another common dummy subject is there. For example, if I have to give you a sentence based on there, uh, there was a heavy rain. Yeah, hopefully you guys are clear with this. And moving on for the object part. So, what are the types of objects we have? So, object of the sentence is a grammatical term, part of the predicate used to describe the noun, pronouns, and noun phrases that are involved in the subject's performance of the verb. For example, if I have to say, Sarah wrote a poem. So, in this, Sarah is the subject, and the object is poem, and wrote is the action involved over here. So typically there are, once again here also, there are three types of objective. So in that first one is direct object, And second one is indirect object, and last one is propositional objects. So, so what does this direct object means? So direct object means this will always answer the question what. So that type of sentence or that type of objects are called as direct objects. So second one is indirect object. Indirect object answers the question to whom or for whom. So that type of objects are called as indirect objects. And propositional objects are object introduced by a proposition. For example, if I am giving, so for the first one, I gave chocolates. So in this, chocolates is answering the question what. So that is called as direct object. And second one, I gave her chocolates. So in this, the for this question to whom or for whom, so the answer is her. So this her is called as indirect object. And a third one, I am waiting for Robin. So here Robin is said to be as the propositional object. So, as an evidence that from the examples that there must be a direct object for an indirect object to be placed in a sentence. In other words, as an indirect object cannot exist without a direct object. And once you know this, what is subject and what are the types of subject and what is object and what are the types of object, then only we can go for active voice and passive voice. In grammar, a sentence describing the relationship between the action or state that the verb express and the participants, subject, object, etc. A sentence cannot be in either active voice or passive voice. Learning the voices can be tedious process, but if the class is carried out with plenty of action involved, learning becomes easier and all the more fun. Standing in front of a class, for example, if I'm standing in your front of you guys and I'm trying to draw a pen, So, how will you say that sentence? So, how will you say it in English as a sentence? So, you guys will be saying it as the teacher dropped a pen on the floor, right? So, instead of this, if I ask you guys to start the sentence with some other subject, then how can you write the same sentence? So, what you most of you guys will be saying it as instead of the teacher, I asked you to start with some other word. So, what you guys do is like you will be writing the same sentence like this: the pen was dropped on the floor by the teacher, right? So, in the first sentence, what has happened? If I'm saying it in terms of active voice and passive voice, so the subject is doing the action, the teacher is the subject over here, and he is trying to do the action of dropping a pen on the floor. So, in such cases, so this type of sentence are called as active voice whenever the subject is trying to do the action. And second type is the pen was dropped on the floor by the teacher. So, in the second sentence, the subject is not doing the action. So, instead of that, it is receiving the action, the one who is being acted upon. So, in such cases, this type of sentence are called as passive voice. So, whenever you are trying to convert a few sentences from active voice to passive voice, so in active voices, the subject is doing the action, or in a simpler word, the subject is active. In passive voice, the subject is receiving the action, or in simpler words, the subject is passive. So, in passive voice, the target of the action gets promoted to the subject position. The passive voice of a verb always consists of a form of the helping verb be plus the past participle form of the main verb. So different form of be verb. So different form of be verbs are am, is, was, were, be, being, being. So this were the be forms or be verbs. So passive sentence often aren't the best way to phrase your thoughts. Sometimes passive voice is awkward and other times it is vague. Uh, Consider this example. So there is a world famous McDonald tagline. You guys know. So McDonald's tagline: "I'm loving it." So that is the tagline of the world famous McDonald. So this is in terms of active voice. If I try to convert it in terms of passive voice, so it will be like it's being loved by me. Yeah, it seems to be a little bit awkward, right? It's being loved by me. So what does that meaning? Yeah. So in such cases, most of the time we don't express our thoughts or whatever we are thinking in terms of passive voice. So passive voice is usually wordy. So you can tighten your writing if you replace passive sentences with active sentences. Then where can we use passive voices? So whenever the ask for use of passive voice, so mostly we say it as in three particular areas. It is appropriate when we don't know the object of the sentence. For example, if I have to give my purse was stolen, so this is active voice. But who stolen it? By whom was the purse stolen? So sorry, this was passive voice because no one is doing the we don't know who's the person who is doing the action. So my purse was stolen. So in such cases we don't know by whom it was stolen. So in such cases we can use passive voice whenever we don't know the object of the sentence. And second one, it is appropriate when the object of a sentence is less important than the subject. So in such cases, we will be using uh, passive voices. For example, if I have to say, Gandhiji was killed by Godse. So on this, it will be better. Godse killed Gandhiji because Godse is the person who did the action, and then only it will be like active voice. But do I need to focus very much on Godse who killed Gandhi? So I don't want to go for such things. So on such cases, I want to give more importance to Gandhi than Godse. So only we go like this. Gandhiji was killed by Godse. So better than using Godse killed Gandhiji. So this was the second area in which or the where we use the use of passive voice. And third part is it is appropriate when we want to avoid assigning blame or bureaucrats love this. They can announce actions without being responsible for them. For example, if I am saying, so tuition was raised. So who raised the tuition fees was raised. So who raised the tuition fees? We don't know. Maybe the person who is in the shadow has been doing that action. So in that cases, whenever you want to avoid the assigning blame, so the person who is taking the blame, so in such cases we will be using this passive voice. Or else, for example, I try to give you another example. Permission has been denied. So this permission has been denied by whom? So in such cases, there also we don't know who has denied the permission. So we yeah. So these were the areas of using passive voices more than active voices, and most of the time we won't be using passive voices. So we'll be using active voices. Yeah. So how to change a sentence from active voice into passive voice? For example, I try to give you a sentence in active voice. So the sentence is like the students, the student wrote the exam. So this is a sentence in active voice. I want to convert this in terms of passive voice. So what is the first step? So whenever we are trying to convert any sentence from active voice to passive voice, so first is identify subject, verb, and object of the sentence. So what is the subject here? So in this, the subject is the student, and wrote is verb, and the exam is object. And the second step is, so move the object to the subject position. So what is the object? The exam is the object. So we are trying to move this object to the subject position. So the exam will be coming to the front. And step three is make the verb passive. So how to make passive verb? So how do we make passive verb phrase? So passive verb phrase is like suitable be form. plus past participle form of the verb in the active sentence. Sorry, in the so that is how we'll be making the passive verb phrase. So in this, the verb they have used is wrote. So active verb that is in past tense. So wrote is the active verb which is in past tense. And if I'm trying to convert this for this suitable verb, so B form, so B form will be like was, because was is also past tense. And next, past participle form of the verb. So past participle form of the verb is wrote, of wrote is written. So whenever we are going for the passive verb phrase, so it will be like was written. So that is what it will be. And last step or step 4 is relocate the subject to the object position by using by phrase. Yeah. So this will be the process. So whenever we are trying to do it, so it will be like the sentence will be converted like this. So the object is the exam, and the exam. If I try to bring it in subject place, the exam was written by the student. So that is how it will be. Yeah. And sometimes the question or the sentences can have two objects. So in such cases, what we are going to do? So changing the sentence whenever it is like having two subjects. For example, I try to give you a sentence like this. So active sentence. So if I try to write it, Sharon wrote a letter to me. So if I'm trying to convert it as passive voice, so in this, the subject is Sharon and wrote is verb and a letter is object one and to me is object two. So for the first one, I want the subject of the sentence as a letter. So I try to bring it here. A letter, and as we know, the verb form here used here is wrote, which is past tense. And if you're trying to convert it in for the B form, it is was, and past participle form of wrote is written, and the other object is to me, and using the by phrase. So by Sharon, so that will be the value. And in the other words, if I want to convert this in terms of another object, which is like to me, so how do I write it? So whenever to me comes in the subject phrase, so it will be like I was written a letter by Sharon. So whenever it is like this, or omitting the object during active to passive conversion. So, for example, I give a sentence as in active voice, he took his pet dog to a vet. And if I try to write it in terms of passive voice, his pet dog was taken to a vet by him. So, as you can see in the example, adding by him does not suits very elegant. So, that is why it is usually dropped. So passive voice, if I try to convert that same thing, so his pet dog was taken to a vet. So this seems to be like something sounds better. So while conversion of active voice into passive voices, the by phrase is usually dropped to avoid wordiness or to make the sentence sound more elegant. So the same process will be done in the reverse order when you go for from passive voice to active voice. So first step, for example, so whenever a passive voice to active voice is being asked, so for example, I try to give you a sentence as the work was done by Kevin. The work was done by Kevin. So in this, the work is called as subject, and was done is verb, and by Kevin is object. So whenever we are trying to go for the first step is like try to move the object to the subject position. So in that case, so Kevin will come in front, and from active to passive voice, we include the be form, and past participle form of the verb will be used. So here we try to remove the be form and make the verb active should be like the work. So that is the word, or that is how it works. So changing the voice of a passive sentence with no object. For example, I give you another sentence in passive voice. The bank was robbed. So here, by whom? We don't know. So as illustrated, the object is missing, and it is known that while conversion, the object of the passive voice is made the subject of the active voice. So how does one do the conversion without the object? So in cases where the object is missing, we have the liberty to choose an object for the passive sentence and convert it into the subject in the active sentence. For example, so if I'm trying to convert it, so it is like this is the subject and this is the verb form. So if I try to convert it in form of active verb, so active voice, it will be like somebody robbed the bank. So similarly, if I try to give you some other sentence in passive voice without subject, so mistakes were made. So here also mistakes were made by whom? We don't know. So if you are trying to convert it in terms of active voice, so it will be like whatever subject you want, we can use it. So either we, or I can keep it as I, or they, or he, or she. So made mistakes. So please make a note of this. While conversion of voice, the meaning and the tense of the original sentence should not change. So that is the ultimate aim of it. And other than that, nothing else. So we'll be ready for getting into the exercise in active one passive voice. So your first exercise is try to identify whether the given sentence is an active voice or passive voice. So for this first sentence, they often listen to NDTV 24/7. So who's doing the action? So here the subject is they and listen is verb and the relationship between the subject and the verb subject is doing the action listening. So this is called as active voice. Similarly, moving on for the next question, try this one. race driver was hurt yesterday. So in this, uh, the subject is a race driver and was hurt, verb, and the relationship between the subject and the verb. So subject is receiving the action by getting hurt. So in that case, this is said to be as passive voice. So moving on for the next one. Try this. Yes, guys. In this, Henry IV invented the assembly line. So Henry Ford and so if I work of invent. So Mr. Singh teaches political science. So in this, so Mr. Singh is the subject and the teachers is the verb. So if I go for the relationship between subject and verb, so the subject is doing the action of teaching. So this is an active voice. Yeah, try this one, guys. Yes, guys, answer for this. Later house destroyed by Thani cyclone in December 2011. So on this, the subject is so lots of houses is the subject, were destroyed is the verb. And if you go for the relationship between subject and verb, subject is receiving the action by getting destroyed. So in that term, we'll be saying this as passive verb. And moving on for the next one, they were singing a song in the classroom yesterday. So here they is the subject and were singing is the verb. So the subject is doing the action of singing. So in this case, this is an active voice. And the next one, try this. Yes, guys. So you might see elephants here. So in this, so you is the subject and might is the verb. Might see. So relationship between the subject and verb. Just subject is doing the action. So or seeing. So this is an active voice. And moving on for the next exercise. So please try to rewrite this given five sentences in terms of passive voice. And I'll give you a few minutes time to rewrite it, and then I'll be explaining the answers for this. Try to do it fast, guys. This guy's first sentence. The girl closed the door. So first thing, whenever we are trying to convert these sentences like subject, verb, and object, we'll be trying to convert. Check it. So the girl is the subject here, and verb is closes, and the door is the object. And we try to bring the object to the subject position. So the door will be coming in front, and verb closes is in present tense. So the be form is in terms of present tense is itself, and the past participle form of the active verb closed. So is closed will be the passive verb phrase, and the door is closed, and we will be using uh, bringing the subject to the object position by using by. So by the girl. So this is the passive sentence or passive voice of this sentence. And second sentence. So once again, so the technician is the subject, test is the verb, and the generator is the object. So if you go for it, so the generator, which is at the object place, comes to the subject place, and present tense, the active verb, which is son, will be converted in terms of be form, will be like is, and a past participle form of the tense is tested, and passive verb phrase is tested. The generator is tested, and bringing the subject to the object position by using by, and the technician, the subject comes to the object position, so does the technician. So the generator is tested by the technician. And moving on for the third sentence, snow covered the mountains. Snow. So snow is the subject, and covered is the verb, and object is the mountains. So bringing the object to the subject position, so it will be like the mountain, the mountains covered. So that will be in terms of past tense, which is active verb. Therefore, the suitable form of the be verb is where, and the past participle form of the active verb is covered. So the passive verb phrase will be like were covered. That means the mountain were covered, and bringing the subject to the object position or using by. So by the snow. So the mountain were covered by the snow. So that will be the sentence. And moving to the next one, he would carry the bag. So on this subject is he, and would is, sorry, would carry is the verb, and object is the bag. So if we try to bring the object to the subject position, so it is like the bag would carry future condition tense. So therefore, the suitable be form of the verb is uh, be itself. So it will be like would be, and the past participle of the active verb carried. So passive word phrase will be like would be carried. So bringing the subject to the object position object using by. So the bag would be carried by him. The subject will be coming to the object position. And moving on for the last sentence, will the interviewers test our GK? So in this, the subject is the interviewers is the subject, test will be the verb, our GK is the object. So making the verb, bringing the object to the subject position. So will remains in that same place because it is going to be a question mark, question sentence. So it will be remain same. So will our GK, so active word verb phrase is will test. So which is like in future tense. So therefore the suitable form of the verb be is will be. That is also simple future. And a past participle form of the active verb is tested. So will be tested. So that case will our GK. So be tested will be added to this. So bringing the subject to the object position using by. So will our GK be tested by, and the whatever may be the subject bringing it to the object position. So by the interviewer. So that's it. Machine mark. So that will be the sentences converting from an active voice to the passive voice. And moving on for the next one, the next exercise. So next exercise is also quite similar, but in a reverse order we'll be doing. So try to rewrite this sentences which are in active voices, sorry, which are in passive voices to active voices. And as usual, I'll be trying to give you few minutes time to rewrite it. Please try to do it. Yes, guys. So, in this, rewriting the sentences in terms of active voice. So, first sentence: the thieves were caught by the police. So here, once again, splitting the subject, verb, and object. So these thieves is subject, were caught is the verb phrase, and the police is object. So if you're trying to convert this, the police in terms of subject, so it will be like the police will be coming in front, and were caught. So phrasal, passive phrasal verb. So here the main verb is catch. Form of the be verb were past tense. So in that case, therefore, the active verb or main verb in past tense. So that will be caught. So the police caught. So bringing the subject to the object position. So it is like caught the thieves. So that is how it will be written. And second one, the principal was pleased with the students' result. So in this, the subject is the principal, was pleased is the verb phrase, and the student's result is object. So if I try to rewrite it, the student's results, so making the verb active. So here it is like, so passive verb phrases was pleased. So main verb is like please. So form of the verb be verb was past tense. So therefore active verb, main verb in the past tense is pleased. So the student's results pleased. So bringing the subject to the object position. So it is like pleased the principal. And moving on for the third sentence, my niece is frightened by the loud thunderstorm. So my niece is the subject here. Is frightened is the verb, and by loud thunderstorm is the object. So if you are trying to rewrite it, so loud thunderstorms come first, and making the verb active. Passive verb phrase is frightened, and main verb frighten. So form of the verb be is. Therefore, active verb, main verb in present tense is that is frightened. So loud thunderstorm frighten, bringing the subject to the object position. So it is like my niece. And moving on for the next one. So next one is like the ball is hit straight into the spectator by Gay. So here the subject is the ball, and is hit is vowel phrase, and Gale is the object. So bringing the object to the subject place. So Gale. So passive verb phrase is hit. Main verb is hit. So form of be verb is present tense. Therefore, the active verb will be like a main verb in present tense, that is hit. Hits. So bringing the subject to the object position. So Gail hits the ball straight into the spectators. And the last sentence, he was praised by the police. So in this, he is the subject, was praised as the verb, and by the police is the object. So bringing object to the subject, so the police, and making the verb active. Passive verb phrase is was praised. Main verb is praise. Form of be verb was past tense. Therefore, active verb, main verb in the past tense, that is praised. So the police praised. So whenever bringing the object subject to the object question, it becomes here him. So that is the sentences. And moving on for the next thing. So next is direct speech and indirect speech. So reported speech is an inevitable part, or reported speeches, indirect speech is an inevitable part of our daily conversation. Hence, it is important that we are aware of the changes that take place in conversation of direct speech into reported speech. Points to be remembered while reporting a direct speech. First is like whenever a quotation mark is or inverted commas used in the direct speech should be dropped in the reported speech. And next is quotation marks and exclamation marks used in the direct speech should be dropped in the reported speech. So question marks and exclamation marks are dropped. And third point is the helping verb do used in the direct speech is dropped in the indirect speech. And the tense of the verb must be changed accordingly. So this will be important, and we have lots of tenses, and I'll be going for a new slide for that. So what are the tenses to be changed in? What are the tense forms? So whenever it is direct speech, so it is like simple present. Whenever it goes to indirect speech, it will be converted as simple past. And whenever it is simple past, that will be converted as past perfect. And present continuous will be converted as past continuous. So past continuous will be converted as past perfect continuous. And the present perfect will be converted as past perfect, and the past perfect will be converted as once again past perfect itself, and present perfect continuous will be converted as past perfect continuous, and past perfect continuous will be once again converted as past perfect continuous. So this were the tenses in which you will be very much conscious about whenever we are trying to convert from direct speech to indirect speech, or vice versa. So other than this, we have certain exception cases also. So what are the exceptions? So exception cases are like, so if the verb in the reported speech is stating a universal truth, so in that case you can't change the tense, or if it is a habit, or if it is a constant situation, or else if it is the tense of the verb does not changes in certain cases. So next is which are all the words which can be converted from direct to indirect speech. So whenever you are trying to convert the words, so words like can in the direct speech will be converted as could in the indirect speech, and may in the direct speech will be converted as might in the indirect speech, and will in the direct speech will be converted as would in the indirect speech, and shall whenever it is in offer, so it will be converted as would, and shall in order form will be converted as should. So, and other point we want to make is like pronouns will also be, so pronouns will also be changed. So whenever it is like, so first person pronoun will be changed, and Second person pronoun will also be changed, and the pronoun of the third person will not be changed. And other things other than this, things which are going to be changed whenever you're trying to convert things from direct speech to indirect speech is, so the words indicating nearness of time and place are changed to words indicating distance of time and place. For example, indirect speech to indirect speech. So direct speech, if I say it as this, indirect speech will be converted as that. And direct speech in these will be converted as those in indirect speech. And here will be converted as there. And now will be converted as then. And today will be converted as that day. And tomorrow will be converted as the next, or like following day. And the last one, yesterday will be converted as the day before, or like the previous day. And last point I want to make is like, in reported speech, the reporting verb like asked, inquired, commanded, ordered, requested, advised, suggested, exclaimed, shouted, etc., are often used in the place of the reporting verb said to convey the mood of the spoken words. When reporting a question, directions given, so an order or a request, the connector that is not used. In reported speech, the word or words or the sound used by the speaker to express the emotion is omitted. So these are the directions in which you have to take whenever you are trying to convert certain sentences in terms of direct speech to indirect speech. So getting into the first exercise, so try to figure out whether the sentences are in terms of direct speech or indirect speech. This guys. So first sentence. So she asked the teacher, "Is it a holiday tomorrow?" So here we have used double quote. So this is a direct speech. Next one. Why didn't you do your homework? The professor thundered, and this is also within double quote. So this is a direct speech. And next one, the captain wanted the team to pull up their socks. The actual words of the speaker, that is captain, are not quoted but are reported by another person with the help of the reporting verb wanted. So, hence, this is an indirect speech. And moving on for the next one. So, please give a try on this. Yes, guys. So, this sentence, the Mohan said he would finish the project the next day. So, in this, the actual words of the speaker Mohan are not quoted but reported by another person with the help of the verb, reporting verb said. So, hence, it is an indirect speech. And next one. So there also it is not given with a double quote. So the vice principal admitted to not being able to find out what had happened the week before. So in that case, so that is also considered as indirect speech. And next one. So Susai said, "I will explain it in the class after the lunch interval." So these are the exact words of the Susai. So this is a direct speech. Yes, guys. Thank you. So that's it for the day. Have a great day.